You are sitting at your desk, staring at a blank document. Your chest feels tight. A low hum of anxiety buzzes at the base of your skull. The friction of this moment is physically painful. Then, you decide you are just too tired. You tell yourself you will wake up early and start tomorrow. Instantly, the heavy curtain lifts. Your breathing slows. You close the laptop and you are safe. Tomorrow is a magical land where you have infinite energy. The world calls this flakiness, but science calls it emotion regulation. Today, we are going to unpack the neuroscience of the Start Tomorrow loop and how to use a few simple behavioral levers to finally break it. When you say you will start tomorrow, you are not failing at time management. You are actually succeeding at a highly evolved biological protocol. Tasks that we put off trigger negative emotions like incompetence, fear, or boredom. Your amygdala, the emotional processing center of your brain, perceives these negative emotions as a literal, physical threat to your well-being. It sounds an alarm. It demands an immediate escape route to protect you from this psychological pain. You are not lazy. You are just seeking safety from a perceived threat. The moment you make the decision to postpone, the threat is neutralized. Your autonomic nervous system shifts from a stressed fight or flight state into a calm rest and digest state. You have successfully escaped the predator. The tragedy is that the predator is just your own to-do list, and it is still waiting for you in the bushes of tomorrow. But in this exact second, the relief is intoxicating. You feel a warm, euphoric wave of comfort wash over your entire body. This rush of relief is the exact reason the loop becomes a chronic habit. It relies on a behavioral concept called negative reinforcement. When a behavior removes a painful stimulus, your brain rewards you. Every time you experience that rush of relief from closing your laptop, a shot of dopamine is released. Your brain logs this interaction. It learns that saying tomorrow makes the stress go away. You are inadvertently training yourself to crave postponement as a coping mechanism for daily anxiety. To break this addiction to relief, we must deploy our first practical patch right now. We have to shrink the threat. The amygdala triggers the alarm because it perceives the task as a massive, painful burden. To prevent your brain from hijacking your focus, you must shrink the task until it is so small that your nervous system no longer registers it as a threat. Do not plan to write a 10-page paper. Plan to simply open the document and type a single, imperfect sentence. Writing one sentence is not a threat. Your amygdala stays completely dormant. You do not feel the intense need to escape into tomorrow. But here is the biological magic. Once you write that single sentence, you break the friction of starting. You cross the threshold from doing nothing to doing something. The hardest part of the entire loop is that initial transition. By shrinking the threat, you make the transition invisible, tricking your brain into starting the work without triggering the panic alarm. But what if you still feel an intense urge to put the task off? To understand why that urge is so strong, we must look at a cognitive bias known as temporal discounting. This is a psychological principle describing how the subjective value of a reward or a punishment decreases as the delay to receiving it increases. In simple terms, your brain cares vastly more about what happens right now than what happens next week. We are wired to optimize for immediate safety and energy conservation over future success. When you are staring at a difficult task, your brain performs a rapid, subconscious calculus. The cost of doing it right now is high stress and high effort. The reward of putting it off is instant, guaranteed relief. The cost of doing it tomorrow might be a missed deadline, but because that penalty is in the future, your brain heavily discounts it. It feels less real. The relief of the present moment mathematically outweighs the pain of tomorrow. Your logical brain simply loses the internal battle. This brings us to the most bizarre neurological aspect of the start tomorrow loop. How do we perceive the person who actually has to do the work tomorrow? Dr. Hal Hirschfield conducted brain imaging studies to answer this. When subjects thought about their present selves, a specific region associated with personal identity lit up. When they thought about a stranger, that activation dropped. The twist is that when subjects thought about their future selves, the activation dropped to the exact same levels as thinking about a total stranger. Neurologically speaking, when you say you will start tomorrow, your brain does not process it as you having to do the work. It processes it as offloading the work onto a literal stranger. And of course, we are perfectly happy to give a massive, stressful workload to a stranger, especially if it means we get to relax right now. We lack empathy for our future selves because we view them as separate entities. We do not feel their future time crunch. We only feel our current relief. Because of this empathy gap, the concept of tomorrow acts as an illusion of psychological safety. Tomorrow is a blank slate, untouched by the failures and exhaustion of today. We project an idealized version of ourselves into the future. We predict that tomorrow we will wake up filled with boundless motivation. We tell ourselves a comforting story to soothe a distressed ego. But when tomorrow arrives, you are not a superhero. You are the exact same person facing the exact same threatening task. Worse, there is a hidden cost to this delay. It is called the guilt tax. When you postpone a task, the immediate relief is short-lived, quickly replaced by a background radiation of guilt. Even while you are watching television or resting, the postponed task is running in the back of your mind. This relates to the Zeigarnik effect, a psychological principle stating that we remember uncompleted tasks much better than completed ones. This creates constant draining cognitive tension that ruins your current free time. Because of this tension, your rest is not actually restful. You are burning cognitive energy managing the guilt of not working. This leads to a state resembling ego depletion. You are draining the very energy you need to tackle the task. When tomorrow finally arrives, you are actually in a much worse cognitive state to start the work than you were yesterday. You are tired from the guilt, and the task now carries the added psychological weight of yesterday's broken promises. So how do we repair this depleted state? The next practical patch is to forgive your past self. Studies show that students who forgive themselves for procrastinating are significantly less likely to procrastinate the next time. Procrastination is driven by negative emotions. If you beat yourself up for putting things off, you increase your baseline levels of stress and shame. Self-forgiveness neutralizes the negative emotion, calming the limbic system and allowing your rational brain to regain control of your schedule and your focus. Next, we must actively bridge the empathy gap. To stop offloading tasks onto the stranger of tomorrow, you must make your future self feel real and present in your mind. Before you say you will start tomorrow, pause and vividly visualize tomorrow morning. How much sleep will you have had? How will your stomach feel when you realize you still have to do this work? Force your brain to simulate the stress of tomorrow. Bring that pain into the present moment to alter the math of temporal discounting. When putting the task off feels like a self-inflicted wound rather than a relief, you generate immediate empathy for your future self. You start treating them like a friend you want to help. To do this effectively, you must decouple action from emotion. You do not need to feel motivated to take action. You can feel exhausted, anxious, and bored, and your hands can still type on a keyboard. The desire to postpone is just a passing neurological weather pattern. You can observe it, without needing to obey it.
Finally, you must redefine the win.
Because your brain craves the dopamine rush of the postponement sigh, you must replace it with a different reward. Instead of making the win the completion of a massive project, make the win the act of starting for exactly 5 minutes. If you sit down and work for 5 minutes, you have succeeded. Celebrate it. Let yourself feel the relief of having faced the dragon. By rewarding the initiation of the task, you wire your brain to favour action over simple avoidance.
The urge to postpone is simply your brain begging for relief from the friction of the present. But tomorrow is not a sanctuary. It is a dumping ground for the emotional baggage you refuse to carry today. Here is your challenge for the next 24 hours. Find the one task you have been pushing off. Do not try to finish it. Sit down, shrink the threat, and do exactly 5 minutes of work. Give your future self the greatest gift possible, which is one less thing to do.